Welcome to this week's episode of The Money Drill, the show that's dedicated to helping you drill down to the reliable retirement solutions for you. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and I'm joined by Erik Morgan. He is the president of Retirement Financial Group. Erik, it's great to see you. How are you this week?
So far, so good. It's been a great week. You know, this heat's a little warm for me, but
yes.
You know, between the heat and the humidity, you walk outside and you need a towel automatically just to wipe off.
It's like, why did I even bother taking a shower,
right? It is so hot, you know. On the weekend, I'm changing clothes 2 or 3 times a day just so I can go into town and look somewhat presentable. Right?
Absolutely. Oh, gosh. Well, you know, what's so fun about doing the show with Erik is we continue to learn more about each other, and I just so enjoy these times with you. And we learned earlier today that we share something in common, that we are both control freaks.
Oh, yes, we are.
Self-proclaimed control freaks, right?
If you talk to my wife, she would proclaim that right alongside of me.
Oh, yes, my husband would as well.
I mean, between my wife and my staff, they're like, I can't let go of anything, you know?
Right?
So I want my finger on every little thing.
So I think it's so interesting that we're going to be talking about things today that we can't control. I think it's really ironic. Both of us ended up in an industry where there's lots of things that we cannot control.
That's right.
And so we're going to be talking about unknown variables when it comes to retirement planning. And I mean, that's just the reality, right, Erik? There's so many unknowns out there. And part of what your job and how you help folks is helping them navigate the unknowns, having a solid plan in place so that when the unexpected does happen or we face these unknown variables, there's a course of action that's solid, that is in fact in someone's best interest. So let's just go through these unknown variables, and I'm so excited to hear what you have to say about each one of them.
You bet. You bet.
Ready?
Yes, ma'am. Let's start.
All right, so let's do it. So first up on my list for you today is the unknown variable of underestimating the impact of inflation. Now, I don't know about you, but all you have to do these days is go to the grocery store and inflation is staring you smack in the face.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, right now, my wife and I and children, well, probably more myself now, but we used to love this place called 𝘂𝗏𝗏𝗏. I still love it. I think I've worn my family out on it a little bit. But they kind of pride themselves. Recently, there's an article written in the paper about them, how they really haven't raised the prices a whole lot, right? They were able to maintain. I mean, they've raised them, but not relative to other things, dining options. So we're sitting there, and we used to go in and eat for around $35 or $40 for a family of 5.
Wow!
It is $65 to $70 for those same items, right? So inflation is real. It's definitely hitting us, you know, and so you mentioned we're both control freaks, and part of being a control freak is knowing the things I don't like surprises.
Right.
And so how best can we have a plan that eliminates or at least prepares us for the variables, the unknowns, those surprises? And so one of those things, being inflation, you know, really what has driven inflation that we haven't seen in years? You know, I trended this, the St. Louis Federal Reserve has a graph of the M2 money supply. Have you heard of the M2 money supply?
I have not, no.
So the M2 money supply really is a way that tracks how much money is in circulation.
Okay. Yep.
And so they track this year on year. And so between March of 2020 and March of 2022, the M2 money supply rose 35%.
Wow.
Okay, in those 2 years. Trending that all the way back to the 70s, the average rate in which money rose at that same, 35%, it would take between as low as 5 years, that was 1 year or one span in the 70s, but generally between 6 and 8 years, upwards of 10 on some years, some trends. So point being, it rose at between a 3 and 5 times faster rate in those 2 years. So whenever money floods the market, right, that's what the Fed said. Hey, the money flooded the market, and we have to do things. We have to tighten monetary policy. So they start raising rates because inflation has been running rampant. Right. So that's why we've seen these interest rates spike last year and continuing on through this year. Not as much, but this deal of inflation. I mean, at this rate, things are going to double in cost within, between year 6 and year 10. It's hard to say, but at the current rate, we're going to see a tremendous amount of increase in spending because not that we're doing a lot more things, but the fact that the eggs just cost more money today.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
The fuel just costs more money. And so we have to have a plan around that. Yep. And even for us as fiduciary financial advisors, we've always tried to incorporate, obviously, inflation into the plan.
Yes. You have to build it in. You have to account for it.
There's no doubt about it. You have to have that. However, we could not account for 2022, right? So that was a known unknown. We knew inflation was going to be there. What rate did it rise? We didn't know until it's there. And now we're having to readjust plans. So we're having to look at plans a little differently, a little bit more aggressive on raising the income. And therefore, it's causing people to need more money to retire on.
Well, and if I may, Eric, I think, I love to break things down in a very practical way as well.
That's right.
I know you do too. And, the long-term historical rate of inflation was 3% or a little bit under for many, many years. So we weren't really paying attention to it. And when it was around that 3%, that meant that the cost of living doubled about every 20-some years, right? About every 26, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Something like that.
So we would need the same amount of goods, and double the amount of money to buy the same amount of goods and services in 26 years. Well, with inflation going way past 3%, that window has shortened.
Oh yeah, like I say, between the years 6 and 10 is kind of where the range we're looking at right now for things to double. So, and I think about just in those 2 years, 2020 until now, Carmelis, $40, $65.
Yep, there it is.
I mean, that's a big increase.
Yes.
Big increase.
Yeah, my eggs last week were $5 more than they have been.
Oh yeah, it's insane, right?
It's insane.
And we see these economic cycles where things go up and things come back down.
Right.
And the Fed, what they've done is they've tightened that monetary policy continually, hoping that, and the data has recently showed that inflation is slowing.
Right.
And I think we're on track for 6% this year. Will we land there? Will we land less? Will we land more? Who knows where the plane's going to land? Definitely lower than last year, I do believe, and I do hope.
Right.
But nonetheless, inflation is still on the rise, and there has to be something. We don't want you to lie awake at night thinking about that. Will my money run out? Will my money run out? We have to have things and tools and strategies in place to help your money last and provide that income for you stress-free.
Absolutely. Which brings me to the next unknown variable that we got to touch on. We have so many to get through today. But let's talk about the unknown variable of not knowing how long you're going to live, because none of us know. And this is directly correlated with what we were just talking about with inflation.
If you knew your date, if you knew your expiration date, you can know exactly how much money you're going to need to last you, right?
Right.
However, no one knows that date. And so many clients, they come in and we kind of always project out between age 90 to 95, that range. And so they'll say, I'm not going to live that long. I'll be dead at 80. 80 plan for 80, plan for 82. I'm like, no. We're going to plan for age 90 to 95.
Yes.
However, if you live longer, I mean, if the Lord calls you home and you got money left over to your kids or your spouse, it is what it is. But we cannot operate that way. We have to have a plan.
We can't run the risk of not having enough.
Not knowing, right? Like of running out. I don't want you to go back to work at age 80.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And so, and what we do, the thing is, I think I mentioned one of the other shows where, so many times we give these financial plans and they're 35 pages long. Whenever everyone, all they really care to see is a one-pager of what's the bottom line.
Right. Where am I? Where do I need to go? And how do I get there?
That's correct. Like that's all they really want to know. It's all people want to know. And so I worked for ExxonMobil for several years and then Shell for several years before getting into this business. And these companies would make decisions, billion-dollar decisions on Excel spreadsheets based on some formulas and macros that they put together. And so we've actually taken that idea and say, you know what? Our clients are oil and gas folks. They are the clients that are making these spreadsheets. They're looking at these things, or they understand Excel from the perspective of that it's a great and powerful tool. So what we've done is we've taken this Excel, we've taken all this Monte Carlo analysis and dumped it into an Excel spreadsheet, a one-pager, so they can see year 1, year 2, all the way to, and their age. They'll know exactly what their income's going to be every year, showing the cost of inflation on the rise. So they know their income, to make it simple for them.
Yes.
And if that's you, if you just want a simple financial plan, one that is robust and reliable, we want to make sure we have that. But one that's just simple, for the common person. That's the way I am. That's the way I was raised. My dad, right? He glosses over. If that's you, if you need a simple plan, schedule that complimentary consultation where you come in. You'll meet with myself, my team. My team is great, whether it be Nederland or Beaumont. We have 2 locations. They're great. They'll make you feel welcome, cared for, loved. We just want to serve you well with giving this plan. So that first meeting will be initial consultation, will be a fact-finding, getting to know you. With the second meeting being a proposal. We'll kind of come up with and have a better understanding of your financial picture today, the next 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. Plans are made to be broken, right? You got to have a plan to break, but you have to have a plan nonetheless to safeguard against these unknown variables. Come in and see us. We would love to help you come in and talk to us.
Wonderful. Erik, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, we are going to take a quick commercial break, but that number to call to get your own complimentary written financial plan from Erik and the team at Retirement Financial Group is there on the bottom of your screen. Simply call 866-688-2591. You're also welcome to take out your smartphone. Simply scan that QR code in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few simple questions, and then a member of the team will reach out to you to schedule your time to come in for no cost, no charge, no obligation, and get your complimentary written financial plan that way as well. When we come back, we're going to be tackling the next batch of unknown variables in retirement planning. Stay with us.
My philosophy to financial planning is a holistic approach. I don't believe that you can execute a proper or develop a proper financial plan by only looking at asset allocation. So, people are so honed into this idea of just being bonds to equity ratios. A true financial plan looks at what are your wants, first of all. What do you want out of your money? What do you expect your money to do? Number two, diversification is very important. Asset allocation is very important. What risk are you willing to take? And number three, what does tax planning look like? What do you want to give to your kids, or what do you want to give to your church? How do you give back? Having a financial plan is important because, during, for example, the 2022 scenario, or we'll go back to COVID as well, when markets drop without a plan, emotions can drive decisions. And plans allow you to have some measure of where you're driving the boat to. And so I think it's really important to have that plan, to stick to the plan, to ensure that that plan meets your character, meets your desires and wants, and who you are. That way, during those times of turmoil, that you're able to stick to the plan and be engaged.
Welcome back to the Money Drill, brought to you by the team at Retirement Financial Group. I'm your host, Kristin Oakley, and I'm here with the president, Erik Morgan. We are talking today about the unknown variables in retirement planning. And the reality is, Erik, we could do an entire show on each one of these unknown variables.
Yes,
right?
no doubt. No doubt.
So much to talk about, but let's keep going down the list. The next one I want to ask you about is overestimating investment income. So talk to me about why that is such a key unknown variable.
Yeah, so many folks, and so many, the old rule of thumb used to be from the American Institute of Certified Financial Accountants, Certified Public Accountants, CPA, used to be the 4% rule. So if you have $1 million, you can withdraw 4% a year, $40,000, and never run out of money. You'll never touch your principal. However, in retirement, there's a few things that have happened, right? You're no longer putting in, your employer is no longer putting in, and your money is being required to do something. It's being required to produce something for you.
An income for you, since you don't have a job anymore.
That's
providing
correct.
that. Yes.
I like to tell my prospects and clients, like, you become self-employed, right? Your income now can't just sit on the sidelines. Your investments cannot sit on the sidelines. They have to go do something.
Right.
So you just take the 4%. So you take the 4%. Last year, market was down 18%. Bonds were down around 13 to 14%. Call it 20. It's easier math. So now we're down $240,000 on $1 million.
Yes.
Okay, so 4% of 760 is not the same as 4% of $1 million, is it?
Not.
Right? It's a big difference.
Yep.
And so now, obviously, the key is you can't be overexposed, right? Warren Buffett has a saying that when people get greedy, I get fearful, and when people get fearful, I get greedy. Now, I am not at all advocating for my clients to become greedy people.
Right.
However, I think the key is you always have to have a plan. While you're working in your accumulation years, you're constantly buying every 2 weeks, every month, some frequency.
Right. You're putting
buying.
money in.
That's right.
Right. Yep.
And it's just buying, dollar cost averaging.
Yes.
You're retiring. You have to have something to still do that, right? So if my dividends are paying me my income, what is buying the market on these highs and lows, right? As it goes up and down.
Right.
What's buying it in the troughs? So we have to have something that's not losing money. And so we have to have something that's principal protected, or something that's tied to indexes that can still produce income for us.
Despite whatever the market
Despite whatever the market,
right.
And that's the idea with preferred stock. They're going to pay a dividend despite the market, or even common stock. But However, they can always cut the dividend, right? So you just have to make sure you're diversified across many asset classes to ensure that your money is working for you continually, and you're able. The key is you're able to buy the dips.
Right.
Right.
Yes. Because you want to buy low and sell high.
That,
Not
the
the other
ideal.
way around.
That is ideal. Yes. That's the hope.
Obviously, the market alone is just such an unknown variable.
It goes up and down. Like I talked to an analyst the other day, and he kind of equated this year's market to, you were in a car crash, both your legs are broke, and you're doped up on morphine, and you think you can stand, and then you stand and your legs collapse.
Oh gosh.
That's the way these analysts currently are predicting the market. The market crashed in 2022. It is propped up for an unknown reason, right? Really. And so at any moment in time, the morphine's going to wear off and we're going to fall.
Yeah.
Are you prepared for the fall?
Right. Yep. And I know that's what you're passionate about helping folks do, is prepare for that. The what ifs, because none of us know. None of us have that crystal ball.
That's right.
For sure. Well, let's move on to the next unknown variable, because this, of course, ties hand in hand with what we were just talking about. Being too conservative with your investments. And the flip side we're also going to talk about is being too aggressive with your investments. So this is a very interesting conversation, especially for people nearing and entering retirement. How much risk should I be taking, right? Am I invested conservatively or too aggressively? So unpack that for us.
Last year, so the Fed come out in January of 2022, and they said we're going to raise rates.
Right.
Whenever they raise rates, I want to pause. I'm going to go back a little bit. Okay.
We're back the truck up.
Back the truck up a little bit, so I can get everyone on the same page. Generally, what people think about from an investment perspective, they've been taught in their 401k, their 403bs, their retirement plan, whatever it is they're using.
Yes.
To buy bonds and equities. The more safety you need by bonds, the more risk you want by equity. Okay,
right.
So it's an equity to bond ratio. Well, that worked well until 2008, and then in 2022. But we saw these bonds not perform because rates were on the rise.
And instead of an inverse relationship, they both went down.
They were correlated together. Correct.
Yeah.
And so basically, the Fed came out last year and they said, hey, we're going to raise rates. And so what my partner and I did, we made the decision to sell out of pretty much every single bond we had, with the exception of a couple. We probably should have sold out of everything, but we kept a few. And we went to 52% cash across the allocation.
Wow.
Now, obviously, past does not predict future, right? So I'm not saying we can do that every time, but my point is, the Fed told me what they're going to go do. That is a known variable at that point. And what also is correlated with that is, I know what's going to happen to the bond market. So we pull it out, we set it in cash. Cash is fine. It's great. We did not have to take the 13%, the 14% hit on our safe money per se.
Right.
Okay. So we have this cash sitting there, but cash can't sit there and do for long, right? The cash has to be doing something.
Yep.
So for a long time, cash was on the sideline ready to reinvest, right? And we want to reinvest those things. And so was 2022 a good year to reinvest? Well, we did some, right? Bought dollar cost average our buys, but we saw a lot of cash ending the year. And so whenever people talk about in their portfolios, they say, well, I'm up 10%, or I'm up 15%, or I'm up X. The next question should always be, did you sell anything? Because if you didn't sell anything, you haven't made anything. And I think about my house. Say I bought my house for $100,000. But the appraiser comes by and says, your house is worth $500,000. It's a $400,000 gain.
Right.
So I'm like, what's worth $500,000? It's useless to me unless I sell it.
Right.
There's no value to me at all. And so unless you sell off your profit and rebalance your account to take those gains, you made no money.
Right.
You're riding the market with everybody else.
Yep.
So what we need to do is, we sit in this cash. Cash today is earning 4.77, 4.9, somewhere in that range percent just sitting there. But there's a problem. It's called a reinvestment risk. Right? Cash is great while the yields are good today. 18 months ago, yields stunk. Right? The cash was literally paying nothing.
You were going broke safely.
You were going broke, right? And we're still losing money technically on the cash because inflation's higher than cash rates. However, it's still doing something. It's preserving the balance if the market does drop. But now we're able to buy, cash is getting 4.7, 4.8, 4.9. We're able to buy laddered CDs, laddered bonds, having those things go back in to be reinvested. Think about the bond market. Again, rates go up, bonds go down. Bonds are low.
Right.
Bonds are really low. Fed has recently signaled we're thinking about pausing the rates in September, possibly. I think for sure there'll be a pause or a stop, or maybe even a retraction of rates in 2023.
Again, talk about unknown variables. Whatever the Fed's going to do, right?
Correct. We don't know. Like we know whenever they tell us what they're going to go do.
Yeah.
So while bonds are low, you know exactly how bonds are going to operate. You buy the bond again.
Right.
Well, that's discounted. So you can buy, coupons 100. You buy a devalued bond at 94, 95. You make the money as they lower rates again, and your yield's higher.
Yep.
So that's. You can't just sit in cash and be too conservative. You have to be aggressive. You have to be active. I see so many accounts that come in to our office, and literally their investments have not changed. And sometimes that's right. Sometimes, they were already positioned. That was their goal. I'm not in those initial planning meetings, but you might see the trend where they haven't changed positions in 2 years.
Right.
If that's you, if you're sitting there looking at your statement, not knowing, should there be action or activity on my statement from my advisor? Is my advisor talking to me? What are they saying? What's going on? Let us look at it. Let us help you. Let us analyze what's going on with you. Now, we're not perfect. We make mistakes. We're individuals. We're humans. But we really try our best. Right? We care about our clients. They become family to us, right? We invite them to dinner at my house. We go to Astros games together. We have big Christmas parties with our clients. We want you to know that we care and we invest in you. And so let us look at your statements. Let us see how we can help you to see if you're on the right track for your retirement.
Wonderful. Erik, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, this is a great way for you to get a second opinion. Are you taking on too much risk? Are you maybe not taking on enough? By calling that number on the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to come in and get that complimentary written financial plan. Simply call 866-688-2591, or you can scan that QR code to get connected as well. We have more on today's episode of The Money Drill, handling the unknown variables of retirement planning, right after this.
I'm an engineer by degree, and so I was working for ExxonMobil coming out of college, and then went to Motiva or Shell after ExxonMobil. I spent a few years there, and I ended up working just a ton of hours. Loved my job, loved the people. I love what I did, but two things were kind of the catalyst that kind of pushed me on. One was, I had 2 kids at the time, and I would go to work at 5 a.m. I would get home 5 to 6 p.m. They were young, so they were going to bed early, and so there was very limited time I would get to see them in the evenings. And 2 days a week, due to our church activities, I didn't get to spend any quality time with them at all. That, coupled with my mom passing away at a young age of 52, just weeks after my dad retired, those two things coupled together, the lack of time with my own children that I was seeing as a progression, and then my mom passing away, said, it's time for a change. I don't want to do this anymore. Honestly, early on, I thought I was crazy. I was like, why did I leave that great job to start all over again? And I just realized that I didn't want to spend my whole life working behind the refinery gates. I'd rather take the skills that the Lord had given me to go help people like my mom and dad maybe retire sooner so they could spend more time together.
Welcome back to the Money Drill, where today we are drilling down on the unknown variables of retirement planning. And Erik, we've been covering so many, and I want to touch on this one before the end of the show for sure. Setting unrealistic investment expectations. This is a fascinating one. So
it is, because I think everyone thought, during COVID, kind of a few scenarios, during COVID, everyone thought they could become a real estate investment professional.
Isn't that
right?
interesting how that...
Rates were low, everything looked awesome, and now rates are through the roof, and they're on these ARMs, these adjustable rate mortgages, and their cash flow's not as good. Right. Very similar to the market, meaning everyone thought they were a financial advisor. It was so easy because we had such a long bull run.
Yes, the longest running bull market, right?
Correct.
13 years of it.
So everyone comes in, and some of these expectations, I said it very clearly with my clients. My goal, if you want max return, I am not your guy. Like if you're looking for that 20% return.
If you're going to chase returns.
If that's what you want, that's not me.
Right.
Yeah, I want you to plan on 3.5 to 6.5. Somewhere in that range is my goal, my target. And what I think about that, I think it's relatable to people if they think through that process a little bit. Your ExxonMobil, your Chevron Phillips, your Valeros, they don't want years where they make extreme high profits to extreme low or no
negative,
profit.
right.
And I think about COVID again, right?
Yeah.
2019 was a decent year. 2020, oil went negative, such that employers, big name employers, were cutting benefits.
Right.
And they did it for about 12 months. Not all of them, but some of them. And so ExxonMobil, Shell, all those folks, they like consistent and stable returns, right? They want consistent and stable cash flow. And like I mentioned, whether it's this segment or another show, you're becoming self-employed. You are running your own enterprise or your own business at the moment that you retire.
Yes.
So stable and steady income is more important than large gains.
Yes.
If we happen to pick a stock or a position that hits a home run, great, that's one, not the whole portfolio, right?
Yep.
And so I think setting that example, setting that expectation up front is really important for the clients, because everyone has gotten in their head that, you know, I should be getting 10% a year. Well, that's just not a realistic return over the life of your retirement.
Right, because that time window shortens, that time horizon changes. The older we get, the closer we get. Once we enter retirement, we don't have time on our side anymore.
That's correct, because if I'm getting 20% gains on the portfolio, that means I can lose that amount of gain as well, right? I can take it, if I can go up 20, I can go down 40 just as easily. And so we have to make sure stable and steady wins the race, right? We want to make sure everything is set. We know, I can pinpoint, you know, someone asked me the other day, what is your benchmark? And I said, half of the S&P. That's my benchmark. And last year, that's what we did. We performed, got a little bit less than S&P was down 18%. We were down about 7.5 across the portfolio.
Right.
S&P is going to be up 20%. We might be up closer to 10, 8.5. That's pretty much, we're landing somewhere in that 40 to 50% range of the S&P. That's our benchmark. And I think it's really important. Will that happen year after year? I don't know.
Right.
But that's our goal. We have to be safe. We have to be stable. And if that's you, if you're looking at your statement and you saw a big decline in 2022 or in 2018 or 2020 even, and you're wondering, how do I protect against these unknown market risks, against the Fed rates, against all the inflation? What do I need to do? You know, there are so many things that we can help you with. We didn't even touch on about 6 different topics, from healthcare to Medicare,
so much left to talk about,
to you know, life insurance,
Social Security, the whole bit.
All those things. If you don't know how that plays into your plan, if you want someone to look at your statement from a fiduciary perspective, call us, come see my team, myself or my partner Clark. We'd love to sit down with you and walk you through what that looks like holistically for you and for your family.
Wonderful. Erik, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, thank you so much for watching. We love you, Southeast Texas. We hope you found this to be valuable and beneficial, and we look forward to being back with you again next week.